Hi folks, and welcome to today's video, my herniated disc recovery journey, the early stage exercises. Now I'm going to be diving into the exercises that I was doing in the early stages of my recovery from my herniated bulging discs and my lumbar spine to get me back on the road to recovery. Okay, so let's dive in and I'll show you those exercises. So folks, today, welcome to my video. I'm discussing this video, the exercises I did in the early stages of my rehabilitation from my second time having a herniated disc at L5-S1. Last week I talked about my recovery journey as a whole, coming back from the first injury back in 2005 to the present one, which came upon me in 2024. I had a lot of comments, questions, emails, people saying, what did you do? What exercises did you do? You know, so I thought I'd make a couple of videos, maybe 3 videos, based around some of the exercises I have been doing and still do at different stages of my rehab, okay? So, just quickly to recap, 2024, March 2024, I was overdoing a trap bar deadlift. I had some previous sciatica nerve pain for a few months before that, nothing really severe. I should have listened to my body at that stage, I did not. March 24, I did a pretty heavy trap bar deadlift, rounded my spine, instant sciatica pain, big surge, and I knew exactly what I had done. So that's when I stopped all heavy lifting. But there was life got in the way. Basically, if you go watch that video from last week, you'll know what I was up to, a lot of traveling, etc. So I didn't really start to address my real problem with rehab until kind of end of the summer 2024. I did get an MRI in March, March this year. February this year, January, February this year, 2025. It did, of course, show, as I suspected, L5-S1 herniation, touching the root nerve, because, of course, I had sciatica nerve pain. And I basically ran through my own rehab program. Today I want to show you some of those exercises. Some of them you'll know, some of them you might not know. But I want to give this information out to you guys, so if you're suffering from the same condition, you can start to do things now, because it is vitally important, if you are diagnosed with a lumbar herniated disc, to start rehab as soon as possible. Whatever you can do, doesn't matter if it's really small, just movements, okay? Because initially, if you've got a lot of sciatica nerve pain, that can take up to about 3 weeks, 21, 24 days, for that sort of big surge of pain for the nerve to start to calm down, okay? As long as you're not having any cauda equina, having bladder problems, extreme drop foot, okay, then you should be able to get past those 2, 3, 3.5 weeks of initial pain and then start to embark on a rehab program. Motion is lotion, movement is key, okay? So typically, and I still do this, when I woke up first thing in the morning, I would roll out of bed and I would go into a simple prone lying McKenzie type position. Now, disclaimer, this doesn't always work for everybody, as far as depends on the way the disc herniation runs. Okay, if it's slightly forward, to the side, backwards, etc. But I'd go down to this position. I would set my timer for anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes, 2 minutes in the beginning, up to 5 minutes as I progressed. And I would just put my head behind on top of my fists like so. I would just keep deep breathing for 2 minutes. And then I would come up onto my forearms here for about 30 seconds. And then I would push myself out of this position, stand up, and I would start my day, okay? But I was doing that every single morning, basically. Now, I have what they call flat back syndrome. Something called Scheuermann's disease. So my actual vertebrae are a little bit different how they're shaped. So I have very little lordosis in my spine. So it is actually quite difficult for me to kind of push up into sort of full McKenzie position. I am doing that now, more of it, to try to encourage more lordosis, just because it helps to displace the forces on your spine. So I was more prone to having a disc issue at that particular area, okay? So now, going about my day, I would obviously try to avoid flexion as much as I could during my day. So what that meant was a lot of standing, a lot of walking, okay? Whenever I was having to move, I would be hip hinging. So I'd be like here, hip hinge, pick the item off the ground. I would be lifting anything heavy, okay? I wouldn't be like, bending and twisting, okay? I was trying to avoid as much flexion as possible for the first 4 hours of the day to give the disc a chance to get a little bit smaller, okay, because the water gets expelled from the disc. It does get a little bit smaller, takes pressure off the nerve. Now, as far as my exercise routine was concerned, I typically started very basically. I'll just run through it right here, right now. One of the first exercises I was starting with was the bird dog, okay? Now, this I see getting done routinely in the gym incorrectly 99% of the time, okay? So, I've got many videos on this, but just to show you guys what I was doing. Got into this position, I was setting my spine. I wasn't going into excessive extension, I wasn't running my spine, I was finding my neutral position, and I was going for arm and leg together. Okay, so I was pushing, first movement, pushing myself away off the floor, not letting my chest sink down, pushing myself away. I was extending, we'll go right leg, left arm, like that, and I'm thinking about pushing my leg backwards, okay? And in this position, you'll see from my wrist, my shoulder, my hips, and my ankle is all a straight line, okay? I'm not sticking the leg up here above my waist, it's there, okay? Then I would bring it in, lightly touch the ground, and I would extend it out. Hold for a second or two, bring it in. And I started off with about 4 repetitions on each side. I worked my way up to 8. Okay, then I would carefully change sides. Here we go. Squeeze that wrist, squeeze that fist, pull my shoulder blade back, extend this leg backwards, okay? Feel my glute squeezing, touch. Very controlled. This is one thing I talk about a lot, is the emphasis on controlled tempo, not too fast, because we don't want momentum ruining our exercises. Hold, okay? So I do my 4 reps, 6 reps each side. Then I was rotating onto my back, like so. I'll come over here. And then I was going to work a little bit my glutes and a little bit my hamstrings, what we call a hip extension. Now, if you place the feet in different positions, so close together, feet wider, turn the feet in, out, you will effectively hit slightly different parts of your glute. But I was just finding what was comfortable for me, okay? Then I was squeezing my glutes here, and then I was controlled lifting as high as I comfortably could. Okay, I wasn't trying to extend my spine excessively. I was lifting up, I was holding for a count of 2, and coming down. Just touching the ground, keeping the glute squeeze on, squeeze. And I was doing about 12 to 15 of these. Now, time of day that you work out or do your rehab plan is very important. My opinion is that you should do it after the first 4 hours of the day. So for most people, that's after lunchtime, okay? It's just because in the morning when you first wake up, your disc is the largest. There is more likelihood that if it's already herniated, that you may go on to injure it more if you're doing exercises in the morning. So I usually tell people wait at least 4 or 5 hours before you start doing your program. And if you notice there is a time in the day, maybe later, maybe in the evening, maybe it's afternoon, where you have less pain in general, that's the time to do your exercises, okay? So I was doing my 10 and 15 of these. Then I would rotate back over here because I'm a great believer in kind of whole body rehab, where we actually work the entire body, because daily life requires us to lift things, push doors, open car doors, lift groceries, etc., etc. So I want to make sure the whole body's strong, because if it's not, what will happen is, if I've got, for example, weak arms, weak chest, weak back, and I go to push open that heavy door or lift that heavy, grocery bag, because I'm not strong enough through my whole chain here, I put a lot more stress on my back to kind of lever that particular item up or whatever. Because there is a term, okay, you're only as strong as your weakest link. So if my arm is the weak point, shoulder or whatever, then I won't get a strong base, and the force going through here is going to be warped, okay? It's a horrible physiological term to use there, warped. It's not going to go directly, and my back will take more of the work, okay? So I would often rotate around, and then I would go into a floor, just a really easy knees push-up, okay? Because I don't want to,
full push-up, okay, if I'm in this position here, I could probably have done them, okay? But I didn't want to because of the excess stress on my lower back, the potential I might excessively extend my spine. So I started with really basic knee push-ups, okay? So let's walk my hands out here, knees were back, feet were elevated, and I was just going down with control and pushing back up. You hear my elbows cracking. I've got no cartilage in one of them, so very controlled, not jerking, small pause at the bottom, and pushing up, okay? And I was doing 10 to 15 of those. It was getting blood pumping around my whole body, giving this section a rest before I go back to work it again, yeah? Now from there, what I would do, because it's very, very important to have what's called solid lumbosacral stability. So lumbar region and your sacrum is your little tailbone, which sits here, okay? And the L5-S1 is just above, obviously, the sacrum, lumbar 5, S1 top of the sacrum. So having that as stable as possible helps take stress off of that damaged disc. So I would go from my push-ups, and then I would go here, onto my side, into what's called the side lying leg lift. Now, if you've watched or remember the 1980s, if you're old enough, right? Jane Fonda type videos, Cindy Crawford, people swinging the legs up and down. That is the exercise, but it's done with a lot more control, okay? For me, if I'm gonna do my left side, right? I'm lying on my right. Now you want to be, supporting your head in your hands here, okay? You bring the bottom leg forward, clasp it with the opposite hand, and this just puts a nice kind of block, a nice sort of bit of stability into that lower back region. Now I take my leg, just so you can show you from the front, and I'm rotating this femur down towards the ground, internally rotating it. So the toe faces down and my toes point up towards my knee. Because if I let the leg rotate out and then I lift, I start to work more the sort of quad region and the hip flexor. I don't want to work that. I want to work this little glute medius muscle in here, which helps to stabilize the pelvis and sacrum region, okay? So to do that, I rotate the femur inward, toes down. Okay, now I'm in line here with my hips and my shoulders, and I can put this hand back here now, and I'm just going to lift up with control and down. Now you'll see the speed and the height. I'm not going way up to the ceiling, I'm not jerking up. I'm just doing the range of motion that I'm comfortable with, okay? You'll see I keep the toe pointing down, almost touches the ground, and we go back up. Smooth, controlled motion. If you do this nice and slow, you'll only need 10, 15 reps. You'll feel a burn up in here, okay? That's that little muscle working. Okay, then I would change sides. And I was doing 2 sets. I was just doing 2 sets of all my exercises. That was more than enough. Then I would come out of that and I would move on to a front planking version. Now there's multiple ways to front plank, okay? On elbows, you can do push-up plank, which is push-up. I was just doing the conventional plank with a slight little bit of posterior pelvic tilt. So I was here like so. I would lift up and I would squeeze my glutes. I wasn't going into extension. I would squeeze my glutes, hold that position. This way the abdominals get more activation, and I was holding in the beginning 30 seconds, but I worked obviously up to a minute, 90 seconds, and then I changed the exercise. Now, when you come out of this, you want to go knee, knee, and then carefully push back, okay? You don't want to let your hips drop, because then you will have, again, this high impact of heavy extension on the spine. You want to come out of all the exercises very carefully. Get into them carefully. I can't stress this enough. You see me here, I'm in this kind of serving night of our split squat position. When you're getting on and off the floor, don't just bend down to get on the floor. Okay, if you've got a wall beside you here, right? Split squat down on the floor, split squat off the floor, okay? Put the stress onto your legs, not onto your back. Now, talking of legs, the last exercise I'm going to show you is what I did to sort of get my quads working, my legs working. And we're going to use a step up. I'm just going to adjust the camera so you can see. Okay, so it is vitally important to work the quads, the legs, when you have a herniated disc, and even in the beginning stages, doing something, okay?
what I recommend to most of my clients is a basic step up. Now this here, it's from IKEA. I've seen them in, you know, like dollar shops, euro shops, pound shops, whatever. Cheapest chips, a little bit of plastic step. You can even use a step at home if you've got stairs in your house. But what this does, it engages our quads, engages the glutes, helps to work on our lower back stability region, but it has a lot of carryover to daily life because, of course, walking, stepping, okay, it's part of our daily life. Now, I see the step up done incorrectly again, probably 99% of the time, okay? With the step up, it is the leg on the step that is your working leg. It's not the back leg, right? So you'll see a lot of people do a step up. They will bend the back knee, right? They push off the back knee and then they drop down. So that front leg, it gets a little bit of work at the top as this leg is pushed off. But the bottom leg is giving you momentum to drive up. Shouldn't be like that, okay? You want to make sure your foot is all the way on the step. You're not on your toes, heel's not off the edge here. Full foot, okay? Your hips are going to move forward, so they're now over the point of pivot, which of course is your ankle, knee, and hip. And then your weight can go straight up, okay? And you come down with control. So you want to avoid pushing with the back leg. You want to, I encourage people to lift up the toes of the back leg so they're not inclined to push with that foot. Head up, chest up, hips move forward, one smooth motion, push with this leg, pause at the top, and down with control. And the control part is very important. Don't just drop because that's stress going up into your spine. If you've got a wall, by all means, use a wall to start with to help you get into the technique and come down. And this was my basic step up. It's maybe 15 centimeters, 6 inches, 7 inches high. Okay, that was my base leg exercise to start with. Okay, and we're talking, this was the first round of my rehab that I ran for about 4 to 6 weeks before I started increasing the height of the step up, trying to bring in split squats, suspension training exercises. And I was doing this routine 3 times a week, okay? And between that, I was doing specific stretches, which I'll show you guys next week. I'll make a video specifically on the stretches and movements I was doing for decompression work and for sort of helping mobilize my hips, okay? But this was basically my routine. This was it, okay? My step-ups, push-ups, side-lying leg lifts, the bird dog, and the core. That was pretty much it, my planking, okay, to start with. I did do a lot of walking. I still do a lot of walking. I was trying minimum 8,000 steps a day. I worked up to 10, worked up to 12, and I was getting sort of roughly 13 and a half, 14 sort of before I actually moved countries, okay? Now I'm sitting at about 8 to 10 most days, yeah? That doesn't include stuff I do at the gym, of course, as well. Walking is super, super important. I will talk more about that next week when we talk about the stretching and the decompression work. So guys, make sure you subscribe, okay? Go and check out last week's video, gives you more backstory. Subscribe so you can be routinely reminded of my next videos coming up, which is going to be stretches, mobility, the walking. I'm also going to give you kind of my mid sort of rehab sort of area of the calendar, what I was doing at that time, the exercises, and where I am obviously today, or what I'm doing today as part of my rehab workout routines. All right. So guys, listen, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it has brought, some information, some knowledge about my journey, which will help your journey along the way. Feel free to ask questions, comment, of course, like this video, make sure it helped that algorithm work, okay? And don't be afraid to reach out and ask me anything by email, etc., etc. So again, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day.